Again, welcome everyone. I am just thrilled to introduce you to Julie Wakefield. I met Julie a couple of years ago at our Master Networks Connect conference in Texas, and I have always wanted to reach out to her because I was so intrigued with her business that she has, and she had done a workshop during one of the breakout sessions there. She has a business which is focusing on business etiquette and protocol. And she also has become a corporate speaker, very highly sought after corporate speaker. And she's had clients including, I think it was American Airlines, Julie, and Hewlett Packard. She's also done a lot of work with the state colleges throughout Texas. So there's a number of state colleges that she's been working with over the years. So Julie, thank you again for being with us, and we're just so excited to hear your words of wisdom.
Oh, thank you. Thanks so much for having me. Today, we're going to just talk about some best practices about etiquette. So when I started this years ago, let me just tell you how I got into it. I was a teacher for 15 years. I taught upper elementary and middle school for 15 years, and I was a private school administrator for a couple of years. And what I kept hearing was from the business community is that our students weren't ready. You know, they're not ready. And I kept figuring out we're trying really hard in education to get them ready. So what's the missing piece? And as I did some research, I realized it was the soft skills. And so, you know, my husband actually encouraged me to leave education and go to become certified to do this. So I am certified through the Protocol School of Washington to do this. And I've done it now for about 9 years. And it has been such a joy for me. I still get to work with kids. I work with high school and college students all the time. I work with interns. A lot of companies hire me to come in and work with, say, their customer service team, their sales team. American Airlines worked with me as they were merging with US Air a few years ago. They were combining culture. So it really becomes more about how to conduct yourself in the business setting, but it also is about communication. How can you be more approachable? And so there's just such a wide variety of topics that we cover. And so I've taken the Protocol School of Washington's material, which I'm still licensed to use, and I've kind of added my own twist to it because here in Texas, we are much more casual than they are in Washington, D.C., and even New York City. We're just really casual here. What about you all in California, in your area? Are people really casual there, or are people still pretty professional?
We're very casual.
Yeah, Lisa Wilson and I both spent a number of years in New York City, and I think from my own experience living in Northern California is like being in a different country. It's so different.
Yeah.
Very casual.
Very casual.
Yeah. So a lot of times it goes into really just kind of thinking what industry are you in, and how do you want people to view you? And things are changing. So let's start with the general question that I like to always start with. What is etiquette, and why would it be important to you? Why would I have been asked to come today and speak about this? So let's kind of all get on that same playing field there. And let me just say this, because I was a classroom teacher for 15 years, and I taught middle school and upper elementary, I am very relaxed. So if you want to say something, raise your hand, get my attention. This can be a discussion like Denise said earlier. I'm not really formal about anything. I'm pretty casual myself. So what does etiquette mean to you, and why would it be important?
Well, I kind of, oh, go ahead.
So I think you got it.
I see etiquette as like a set of behaviors that are socially acceptable. Like, and when I think of etiquette, I always think of, you know, eating at the dinner table, when your mom told you not to have your elbows on the table, or you have to know which fork to eat the salad with, and that kind of stuff, right? To me, that's etiquette. But in a business setting, I have found over the years that it's important to know other kinds of etiquette. Like, you know, in the last 20 or 30 years, we've had to learn things like, don't type your emails in all caps because it sounds like you're yelling, you know, that kind of stuff. So,
Yes.
and to
Yes.
me, that's what etiquette is. And I think as we continue the shelter in place, and as it becomes more apparent that this is going to be our life for a while, that with this new way of doing business, of not being in the same room as people, there's probably like this new set of rules that we're going to have to be aware of, like, you know, not have your husband changing his pants in the background when you're on a meeting and that kind of stuff.
Not that happened.
Not that that happened.
That was just hypothetical.
Just hypothetically, maybe.
Yes. 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 So yeah, and that's exactly right. Does anyone have anything they want to add to that?
Yeah, this is Lisa. I think it's part of our social contract, you know, so we can have a base of understanding of how things happen. And when we all agree to that, then that's the base that we build our further communications on.
Yeah, yeah. So what I'm seeing is that years ago, it was more about, are you doing the right thing in the business setting? Today, it is more about, are you being true to yourself while you're still representing your brand or your company's brand? So it's a big blend of that, whereas I felt like 10, 15, 20 years ago, it was, this is how you do it. And now it's about, how do you blend it? Because people want to be true to themselves. Rules of behavior, just the etiquette is just simply rules of behavior in social and business settings. That's really the definition, but it's really important. I found this great quote from the Spruce of last year. Good manners can mean the difference between success and failure in many aspects of life. Knowing and exhibiting proper etiquette, or knowing how to behave in certain settings, I guess you could insert that definition, is essential to any civilization. So there have to be some guiding rules there. This is the basis for everything I do. This is research-based, and it's you know, Harvard University, the Carnegie Foundation, and the Stanford Research Institute all did research. And what they found is that technical skills account for only 15% of the reason that you get a job, advance in a job, and keep that job. 85% of your success comes from your people skills. So if you think about that, we spend K-12 learning academics, and you go to college, you learn academics. And if you don't go to college, you learn something, you learn a skill, you learn something. And that is really the basis of what gets you into the field that you're in. You follow what you want to do. You have to have some type of technical skill, and you have to be really good at that. What is not accounted here for, or what's not mentioned here, is that if you are not good at that 15%, then it really doesn't matter about the 85%. And we use this in classes to talk about if you are in a big department, or if you look at in your community who does the same thing that you do. People are not really going to buy what you're selling, they buy you. So how are you going to get that promotion? How are you going to get somebody to become your client? It's because they connect to you. And so once you have been connected, then you have to be really good at what you do. Does that make sense? Am I making sense here about that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when we talk about the going through a meeting, which are now virtual, this is something that we are now pivoting in. So we had virtual meetings before. I've been doing virtual face-to-faces for a very long time. Virtual meetings, a lot actually. But then this hit, and all of a sudden we're not allowed to go to work anymore, but we have to continue our businesses. So we've all pivoted, and so this is becoming more of the norm. So as we start to look at this, we start looking at the definitions of people skills, which don't change at all. People skills are you likable? Are you trustworthy? Do people want to be around you? And how do you make people feel? That hasn't changed, whether you're virtual, whether you're in person. These are all people skills that relate to that 85% of what makes you successful, right? I'm going to go through this real quick. This is not as relevant right now. Albert Morabian has a 7-38-55 rule. He says that 7% of the way we communicate are words, 38% have to do with the tone, and 55% have to do with our nonverbal communication. If you look at that, this right here becomes really important in any type of meeting, but it is especially important in meetings where you're virtual, because we don't have much of this unless you raise your hand, but you can use the chat feature. But this right here, people are watching you. You're always on camera. So, and you don't know who's watching. You don't know who's going through and scrolling through and saying, let's see, who else on here? Because you can do that really discreetly, right? So this is something that I focus a lot on in all of my classes. But I do want to say this model is not something I totally agree with, because I'm a big believer that you can make or break somebody with your words. If you look in scriptures, your words are, I mean, there's a ton of scriptures in there about your words, especially when you're dealing with children. You have to not only watch those words, but the tone is so important too. So I'm not really sure I agree with this model, but I do agree that a huge part of the way we communicate has to do with our nonverbal communication and the way that we present ourselves.
Can I just say about that, Julie?
Please, yes.
So I have a colleague that, this is a real life story just recently. I have a colleague that was participating as a person on an interview panel. And so there were several folks on the interview panel, and of course the candidate that they're interviewing. And after the very first interview he had, they talked about this one gentleman was the first one that was up there. But there was the discussion after that first interview, because some of the people on the panel were not engaging with that person that was being interviewed. And they were, the candidate had to do a presentation. So he's obviously looking for feedback and conducting his presentation, while the panel members were checking their emails, they're looking down, they're looking around. And so this becomes like, it's a 55% nonverbal. I feel like just it exceeds that in this case, because that's, like you say, that's really all you have, or most of what you have is that nonverbal. And we've all seen it, and I've been guilty of this, and sometimes too, you know, you're trying to have a conversation and your phone goes off or your emails chime, but I'm really trying to, and I'm not, you know, 100% good at this, but, you know, just trying to focus on being engaged.
Yes.
Not nonverbal, with the body language.
Yes, we talk a lot about being present when you're in front of somebody. You know, don't have your cell phone out if you're in a business meeting unless it's relevant to the meeting. It's the same thing when you're in a virtual meeting. So, and we're going to see that as we kind of go through the best practices of what I found, and the Protocol School of Washington, they use a lot of their information that they're coming out with now too, for this presentation, because I believe that this is huge in capturing that soft skill and making you approachable to other people. It's about how you make them feel. It's really, that is everything. Emotions are so powerful. And people may, and Maya Angelou said this, and I use this so much in my life. People may not always remember exactly what you say, and they may not always remember exactly what you do, but they will remember how you make them feel. And when I was a teacher, we knew that with children. If a child doesn't feel comfortable in your classroom, they're going to shut down. And it's the same thing with your clients. It's the same thing with your friends, with your family. If they're not comfortable with you, and they don't know that, they don't believe that that you care about them as a human being, you're going to lose them. And so this has a lot to do with how you make them feel. Are you present with them right now in this moment? And that's huge. So I'm glad you brought that up, because being present is huge. So let's talk about some of the pitfalls. I always say do a profile check and a background check. So on your profile, because we're sharing our Zoom accounts, I had this happen the other day. And I was doing a class and somebody popped in. And just like I was doing early on, a lady had her name up there, and her name was Lily. And I said, "Hello, Lily, welcome. I'm so glad you're here." And she goes, "Oh, I'm not Lily, that's my child." So she had to go in real quick and change her name because she was in as her child. You want to make sure that you don't put somebody in a position to be calling you something different. So check your name. Do you have a picture on your profile? So if you go offline, does the picture show up? Or if you turn your camera off? And sometimes they'll ask you for a location. Is that correct? Are you in the right place? And then check for what's behind you too. And this a lot of time has to do with where you are and where you're set up. So I've seen people in their kitchen. I've seen people in their bedrooms. I've seen people that have home office. What is it that's behind you? For me, because I teach protocol and etiquette, and that's my image, and that's what I want to come across, is I wanted something professional behind me. So I actually had my daughter come on to a Zoom call, and I said, "What do you see?" So right behind me back there, that's a bathroom. That's our guest bathroom. So I want to make sure that door's always closed, so that, because right behind that is a mirror, so I didn't want that reflecting. You just kind of do a check, like, what is it that's behind you, and does it reflect what you do, and does it reflect your personality? And then you also want to make sure that background is not so distracting that people are paying attention to the background and they're not paying attention to you. This is huge, and I teach this in all my etiquette classes. If you are at a meeting, say at a restaurant, you don't want to sit at a table and sit your guests where they're looking out the plate glass window where there's lots of traffic. Or you don't want to seat them so that they are looking at the main dining room or near the bathroom or the kitchen, so that it's distracting behind you. The same thing goes with your virtual background. So the other day, Roger, my husband, and I were sitting watching an online summit. And one of the speakers, and this is a guy who's very well known in his field, was in a bedroom that was painted lemon yellow. And on camera, the way the lights and things were, it just was illuminating. And so he kind of drowned into that yellow. And it was really hard to focus on him because I was looking around the room at the walls. And it was really hard to focus on him. So he lost a little bit of my attention because he didn't really pay attention to the background and the lighting. One other thing is, do you have a camera that's blurry? When we first started this, my husband and I were on a Zoom call together and something else, and I was using the camera from my computer. And he came in afterwards, he goes, "We got to get you one of those cameras that clip on." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because you were so blurry. I couldn't see you." So I didn't know that. But we went down and bought a little Logitech camera to put on there. That's better than the camera on my computer. So think about that. Can people see you? And then check your lighting. In our office, like right now, I'm at home because I'm in my home office. Occasionally, I have to go up to our plumbing company. We're an essential business, so we're open. So I have to go up occasionally, pay bills, you know, do that type of thing. So I'll go in up there and work from there. And if I have a call, then I'll jump on. Well, in my office, it's not well lit. And you would think that I am in the witness protection program because people, you can't see me. It's so dark. So we've had to bring lights in to put in front of me so that you can see me. So you just have to think, what does it look like when I'm on camera? You know, am I wearing something that blends in with the background? Is the background distracting? And does it reflect what I do? And does it reflect my image? And then the one last thing I wanted to say too is, how is your sound? You know, a lot of people will watch a bad video, but they won't listen to bad sound. So check to make sure that your sound is good, that people can hear you, and that there are no distractions there. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to add to this at all? Kind of went through that fast.
I think, Julie, that there probably is something to be said for, I've noticed during shelter in place that my own grooming habits have changed dramatically. I mean, yeah, I'm clean, everybody, but yeah. I do know that, you know, it's different when I'm wearing yoga pants with my nice blouse, and maybe I'm, you know, sporting that ponytail more often than I normally do, and that kind of thing. And I also will say about the lighting, I was taking an online Zumba class from a woman that had the camera pointed towards her big picture window in her house, just as the sun was setting, and she had her back to the window facing the camera, wearing a bright white t-shirt, and it was just so bright I had to log off of that class because I couldn't even see what she was doing. And I mean, she fixed it and everything. So I did want to say, you know, have you say something about how we present, you know, from the chest.
Yes, and that's why I'm getting to that, but I wanted to make sure that we understood, it's just like if you go to a restaurant, you want to be careful where you are seated. You want to make sure if you're there for business purposes that you want the person to be paying attention to you. It's the same thing on the camera. So these are some things you need to pay attention to. Your lighting, are you facing the window or is your back to the window? What's behind? Is there a bathroom behind you? Make sure the door's closed, that type of thing. So I wanted to cover that, but then here we go with the image, because remember, you're still working. And even though right now we're giving each other so much grace, so I know I've been on calls before where the kids are running back behind you. Sometimes we just can't help it. I mean, we're kind of thrust into this, and so give grace when grace is needed, and ask for grace when you need to. You know, the other day I was on a face-to-face, and it was late in the day, and one of the child, I think she was about 8, kept coming in because it was dinner time where they were. And finally it was like, look, I've got to go cook dinner. We need grace, right? So you can't be upset with somebody who's trying to run a family and homeschool and cook dinner and all of that all at the same time. But at the same time, we need to make the effort to still be professional and protect your image as well as the image of your company. So remember that you do need to dress. And I've seen so many posts saying, well, I'm switching now from my daytime pajamas to my nighttime pajamas. I was on a call yesterday with the lady, and thank goodness I know her very well. She said, I have not had a shower in 3 days. I've had these same clothes on for 3 days. And I said, well, I think it's time you take a shower. It's just one of those things that we need to do. Make sure that you're keeping to your company's dress code. She works for an insurance agency. She's like, I haven't changed clothes in 3 days. Change your clothes. Even if you have to change your clothes for a meeting, like maybe you're in your sweats and your yoga pants. Right before a Zoom call, go put on something, go put on a scarf and a sweater. Nobody knows what you're dressed down below the waist. You're just seated at your desk. Make sure that you washed your hair or that you fixed it. Ponytails are certainly acceptable, but make sure it's a nice ponytail. Or if it's a messy bun, make sure it's a cute messy bun, not just I rolled out of bed, bun. There's a lot of memes going out there with people who, get up and they just look gorgeous and it's I woke up like this, we don't wake up like that. So take the effort, make the effort to look nice and be professional, because we are still working. And the other thing you want to keep in mind is, does what you're wearing blend in or contrast with with your background as well?
Hey, Julie,
Yes.
what are your thoughts about the Zoom virtual backgrounds?
I have kind of mixed emotions. I have seen them where they look nice, and I don't know why. Some of them look like you're, sitting at the beach, or some of them really look like you're, in front of a beautiful cityscape on a rooftop or something, and some of them look like you're blurred in. You know what I'm saying? I've seen them work both ways. Excuse me. But I really think that unless you can make them look nice, you shouldn't use them, because I think they become distracting. That's just my personal opinion. There's no right or wrong here. It's just personal opinion and what I think. But to me, when you are on a meeting and you want to be heard, you want your voice to be heard, and you want to be taken seriously, then what's behind you should not be distracting. And that is kind of all I've got in a synopsis, is just that. Remember, it's how you make people feel, and it is how approachable are you. And so how are you coming across on camera is something that we all need to think about in this new world of virtual meetings, because I think virtual meetings are, the popularity of them right now are going to just continue. And whether you're using Google Hangouts, whether you're using Zoom, WebEx, Skype, whatever it is that you're using, make sure you do your planning. Make sure you're prepared for the meeting. And the extra step is, where is your camera? What's your mic? How is the sound? What's behind you? And how are you dressed for this meeting? And make sure that you come with your A game, even to a virtual meeting. Don't look at it as something as, well, I'm at home and the kids are here, so I don't have to brush my hair. Brush your hair and come prepared for that meeting. Well, that's all I have. I thank you so much for your time today. Denise, thank you for the invitation. Thank you for this opportunity. I certainly do appreciate this. And this is what's fun to me, is working with businesses, working with companies, and especially our young professionals that are moving in from college to career, or even those that are coming out of high school, kind of helping them adjust the way that they behave and making themselves more professional.
Thank you so much, Julie.
Thank you.
Your expertise is excellent, and we really appreciate you sharing it with us.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure.
So with that, Just wanted to talk a little bit about us and who we are. So at Combs Consulting Group, we partner with employers to provide human resources management, business education, and leadership coaching services to attract and retain a skilled and engaged workforce. That is something that we focus on day in and day out, and we're happy to serve our community during this time. And we are here for you. So both Laura and I, we are professionally certified experts in human resources and workplace safety at both the federal and state levels. And we remain in close contact with our local government officials and leaders, the city leaders, Chamber of Commerce leaders. So we're happy to be able to stay connected with them. And with that, we are able then to continue to provide these webinars for you and updates through social media. So we're doing that for you, and we're doing that for us too, so that we can remain in touch with everything that's going on in this crazy world that we're in.